Kirsty TV. My guest today, Allan Anderson, is a recovering alcoholic 2.5 years sober. What started out as social drinking quickly escalated into a full-blown drinking problem, and he's here today to share his story on the road to recovery. Thank you so much for being here today, Allan.
Thank you for having me.
So when you were a teenager, did you ever think that you would be an alcoholic by 35?
Never in a million years.
It's not what most people grow up to be, is it?
No, I imagine myself being an old retired man sipping wine on a yacht somewhere, enjoying it responsibly.
Yeah.
You know, definitely did not see it coming.
And when did it start to escalate?
Well, the funny thing is, when I first got sober, I would look back to when I thought the problem got really serious. And what would happen is, and I think it's part of the normal process of getting your head clear and getting your memories back, is I would remember an event where I had been drinking a lot, and that would go back, say, 2 years. And I'd think, oh, see, I've had a serious problem for at least 2 years. A couple months go by and I have another memory. Ooh, that memory takes me back 4 years. Oh, wow, I had a problem longer than I thought I did, you know? And I think it goes back about 10 years.
What is it about that that's tough for you to admit?
It's tough to admit that I wasted so much time. There's so much I could have accomplished and done differently in the span of a decade, you know, and when you realize you've lost 10 years, it's shameful, you know, almost more so than the actual problem itself was, that I neglected my friends, my family, that I missed job opportunities, career path changes that just went right by me.
How do you think it just slipped past you? How do you think you didn't realize 10 years ago that you had a drinking problem?
You know, there's some part of me that always kind of knew it was a problem. I would rationalize it. I used to joke about it. I'd call it taking my medication, you know, the way other people medicate whatever illness they have. When I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't feel well, I would have my medicine, and I'd have it before breakfast.
And this is every day?
This was every day.
So you were getting up and drinking vodka for breakfast?
Yes, and sometimes, like I said, fooling myself, the denial, but yet in the back of my head I knew it wasn't right. I knew other people didn't do it this way, but sometimes I would even set my alarm. I'd get up about an hour before I needed to get up so that I could down a glass of vodka and go back to sleep. Then an hour later I'd get up and I'd feel normal because I'd already had my medicine, and I could fool myself that now I can have my coffee and my cereal and get on with my day. It was complete delusion.
I mean, alcoholism is not a pretty disease by any means. What would be one of the ugliest memories for you?
I'm on the bus on my way home, and all I can think about is getting home and starting my lunch break, which would also be very similar to the breakfast. I would have the glass of vodka first, and then I can enjoy my lunch with, you know, of course, some more to go with it. But it was such a struggle just to get through those few hours. I'd start to shake. So you go to the back of the bus, at least I did, and sit by myself and just count the stops until I get home. And I wasn't going to make it without needing to vomit. So I opened up my backpack and just puked right into the backpack and zipped it back up and sat there, and everyone's looking, and it was quite humiliating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you wish you knew back then that you know now?
I wish I knew to reach out. I wish I knew not to be so stubborn and vain. It's a crazy thing when you're, as I just described myself, in that messy state at the back of the bus. Your pride, your ego still manages to insist that you're going to figure this out.
Did you not want anyone to see what was really going on?
I did not, no.
So you were hiding this from family and friends?
I hid it, and for the most part, pretty well. You find yourself, I found myself, withdrawing from invitations to do things that I normally used to do. Going on trips, I wouldn't take trips. I wouldn't go even to the movies anymore because it was.
Why were you withdrawing?
It was too long of a period to get through without knowing I'd have something to drink.
Wow.
And if it were a situation I couldn't sneak something into, which I did a lot of that, then I just simply wouldn't go. It was just too much effort.
Wow. So what in that exploration did you find out about yourself, and what do you think started all of this?
Somehow I managed to put on myself these expectations that I need to prove something to my family, to my friends, to the world, and I don't know where that came from. And I set out, I came to LA to be an actor. I had some mild success at that. It wasn't exactly to the level I wanted it to be, and therefore I felt like a failure. I entered into a relationship I thought was going to be forever, and it wasn't. So I felt like I was a failure. I was still living paycheck to paycheck in my 40s. Financially, I was a failure. So I don't know now in sobriety, now that I'm rethinking what's important, none of that matters.
Yeah.
Happiness comes to some of the poorest people.
Yeah.
You know, loving relationships come when they're least expected. You know, you can't plan things out and expect them to turn out the way you expect them to turn out. I heard this really great, I heard it put very well. A motivational speaker, I can't remember his name, he was saying that our lives are like a movie. Our lives are like a film that's been directed by God or our higher power or whatever you believe in, and that the scene you're in right now is the only scene you can see. There's scenes way further down in the movie. You know, you don't know how the movie ends. You don't know what other characters are going to come in, how the plot's going to change. You only know what's happening right now. But what I was doing was planning the movie to the end. I saw where it was going, and it wasn't right. So I felt like a failure. So to escape those feelings of failure, I numbed myself. And the more often those feelings would come along, which increased daily, the more I would numb myself.
Well, let's talk about numbing, because I think that is something that in society we're doing in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. What is it for you? What do you describe numbing as being?
Well, on a daily basis, it was having to deal with things that I wasn't willing to deal with, a stack of bills or the phone calls I had intended to make, or whatever it was, the laundry that needed to be done. Mm-hmm. It was so overwhelming, which now it wouldn't faze me, but it was so overwhelming in that state I was in that I would just want to shut my head off. Mm-hmm. My head would be going crazy with what about this and what about that and when am I going to do this and that. So just shut it down, and then I'll deal with this later. That became a habit that lasted 10 years. Somehow there was a delusion that if I just put it off right now, if I just numb myself, if I just sleep for a couple hours, when I get up, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, of course.
And you don't figure it out.
So if someone's sitting at home today, just like you, and they're having vodka for breakfast, what do you say to them?
Well, I know it's a really hard thing if you're in denial to even entertain the idea of going to a meeting. A lot of these most meetings, you can just go sit in the back and observe. Yeah. It's a hard thing for people to do if you're not admitting you have a problem. If you can get out of the chair, off the couch, and just observe, just be a fly on the wall and see how it works. If you're even entertaining the thought that you might have a problem, that would be the most beneficial thing I think you could do for yourself.
What final words of wisdom do you have to offer?
Know that it can be so much better. If you can check your ego and just let your pride down a little and know that it's going to be so much better. See, I knew I had a problem. If I had asked the questions that needed to be asked, if I had let my pride down a little, it may not have taken me so long.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It was great.
Thank you so much.
I know if you're out there and you're suffering from any kind of addiction that you would have got an enormous amount of value from this interview with Allan. Think about letting your pride down. Think about asking for advice and getting help, or sneaking in and sitting at the back of a meeting and just seeing what it's all about. I look forward to seeing you next time on Kirsty TV.